it's the Mad Queen. Welcome into the Queen's Lair as I dive into another hero in my All About Heroes Spotlight playlist. If you're interested in finding out more information in depth like this one, you can check out that playlist on the main channel of my YouTube. Hitoshi is a fairly newish hero. He's an epic offensive hero. Offensive meaning his purpose is to deal damage. He is a wood element hero, so he is going to deal extra damage to water heroes that are blue, and he's going to take an increased amount of damage from fire element heroes that are red. Hitoshi is, I like to call him Ninja on a Beach because he's literally a ninja on a beach. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but it does look pretty cool if you ask me. I do have Hitoshi placed in the S+ tier list for PvE because he is honestly able to be used in quite a few places. He can deal a pretty good amount of damage. He gives himself survivability, extra turns, and he's really easy to build out. His trait is very much like Zatlux, and he's able to give himself 30% crit rate, which means you're only going to have to build 70% crit rate into his gear or his equipment. In this, I'm going to be going over a lot of information and as many details as I can as quickly as possible. His abilities, his glyphs, masteries, ascension. I'm going to show you the gear I have on him currently, talk about other options that you can build onto him, heroes he is paired well with, the places he's best used, and I'm going to be rating him in every place within the game. That's going to be in this section here. If you want to see that, that is going to be towards the end of the video. So first off, I'm going to read his abilities. Like I said, his trait, Art of Ninjutsu, is going to give him 30% crit rate. He's also going to be able to gain rage. It's going to get 4 at the start of battle, and when he kills an enemy, it's going to reset his ultimate abilities cooldown and also give him 1 additional rage. Once you have his ascension, he's also going to be able to give himself 5 stacks of attack up. Each of these stacks is 10%, so up to 50% total. His first, Blade of Malice, deals 120% damage to 1 enemy. The damage is increased by 30% if this ability triggers a critical strike. Next, his special, Crimson Slash, deals 150% damage to 1 enemy. Also deals bonus damage based on the target's max health if the attack triggers a critical strike. And lastly, his ultimate, Lethal Dart. This one actually does quite a few things. He's going to consume all the rage that he has gained to deal 120% damage to all enemies and recover health equal to 30% of the damage he's dealt. Each point of rage is going to increase the damage dealt by 20%. Then he is going to launch a bonus attack with his special ability if he kills the target or a target. Woo! So yes, that's a lot. And whenever you really pay attention to what all of his skills are telling you, it is letting you know it is imperative that he has 100% crit rate. You're not going to consistently make critical shots or hit critically if you don't have 100% crit rate. And that's why I was saying it is super easy to build him out because he's giving himself 30% already. So all of his skills are really building off of his trait to deal damage if he is hitting critically, which is super nice. The way that they have built him and assembled his kit overall, really, it just synergizes very well all together. And besides calling him Ninja on a Beach, Hitoshi, I also like to refer to him a lot as almost another Nathalia. Of course, he is not Nathalia, but the damage that he's able to do is very similar. Plus, he, like I have mentioned many times, is able to give himself that crit rate. He gets rage. He's able to reset his ultimate ability cooldown, just like Nathalia is, but he is also able to help himself stay alive by healing himself and take extra turns just by hitting critical shots. So that is really, really nice. As far as his masteries go, once you can reach all 4 of his masteries into gear, you don't really need to go much farther until you have been able to put masteries into quite a few other heroes. Later on, you can come back and finish these out if you would like. It will give a decent benefit and buff to him overall, but you just really need to focus on getting these 4 here in the first place, and then you can come back later, like I was saying. His ascension is going to happen at his 2nd ascension, which is really nice. A lot of heroes that they've been coming out with are doing the ascension at the 5th ascension, so I'm glad because they are offering this to newer players or beginners that it's only a 2nd ascension. So it does make that much easier to achieve overall, because keep in mind, he's not going to get these specific ascension effects until you do have those 2 extra copies to put into him. You can see I do have him at level 70. I have all of his abilities completely maxed and all of his glyphs maxed. It is very important, very vital that you're not skipping out on doing their glyphs and abilities. This doesn't just go for Hitoshi. It is very important that you're doing this. It gives him and all the other heroes in the game a very substantial buff in general, and it's not really hard to do it. It does just take a bit of time overall. Don't skip out on these. It's going to make a huge difference. So currently, I'm going to show you the stats I have on him. These are not amazing by any means, but they work really well on him. I will say I don't use Hitoshi a ton on my account. That's because by the point he had come out, I'd already been playing the game for well over a year, and I had a ton of other heroes that were level 60, level 70, fully ascended, that had masteries in them and whatnot. So I have 4,300 attack, 184 speed, 80% crit rate, and 310% crit damage. You want to focus first on crit rate, then attack, which is much different because I do typically recommend attack than crit rate, but because his kit is very imperative on him hitting critical strikes, you do want to try to get to the crit rate first, then the attack, and then as much crit damage, and then speed. It says he has crit rate at 80% here. That's 10% more than I needed to build into him. Don't worry. If it says that you're at 70% or a little higher, you're good to go. His trait is not going to be configured into his overall stats here. It's not going to happen until you get into battle. So don't be worried if you're seeing his crit rate only at, the 70 or 80 mark or whatever the case may be, that's not actually at 100. Don't panic. I do have some people that will get a little worried sometimes because they're like, it's not saying 100% there, but it is okay. As far as his gear, I really have, preferably I would have had 3 warrior sets on him. This is a more so mid-game-ish, newer-ish player build. Of course, all of this is 6-star gear, so you can take that as you like. But for more of an in-game gear build, I would be putting an Avarice set on him, and that is going to help his ultimate do more damage because that set helps him do, or helps the hero wearing it deal additional damage based on dealing damage over an area. Oh man. So I don't know what's going on, but he'll deal extra damage over an area with that set. He will work fantastic though if you just use 3 warrior sets on him. Of course, you can see I have a broken set here, and that's just because this is really a bunch of random extra gear that I have sitting around on, and just in case I may need him somewhere, he is helpful. And I do use him. I just don't use him at the capacity that a lot of newer players or mid-game players would be. So for his stats overall, I have speed boots on him. That's to make him quick. I am in the late game to end game content in most places within the game. So I do need him to be quick for the most part. Most people, if you're a beginner or mid-game player, you're going to be able to get away with putting attack percent boots as the main stat here instead of speed. It's really just going to depend. I have crit damage on his ring. You could use a crit rate ring here and really be done with his crit rate for the most part with just one piece. And then attack percent on his necklace. As for all of the substats on the top 3 pieces, I just tried to get crit damage, attack, and crit rate as much as possible on these stats. If you can get some speed on your weapon too, that's going to be a good little buff for you, and it's really going to help you as a beginner or mid-game player get away with using attack percent boots, especially when you can get a little bit of speed on a couple of these items. As you know, you cannot get speed as a substat on your helmet or your chest piece, but you can get it as a substat on all of the other 4 pieces. So look out for that speed substat. It can be super helpful for you and let you get away with dealing additional damage by not using speed boots. I only have a couple more things I want to mention before I get into rating him. I do specifically want to say that this hero is going to be most useful for newer players or mid-game players. As you progress, you can use him in later game content. But if, of course, you're somebody that has been playing for quite some time, he can be fun for you to build out. You're going to get as much use out of him as you would somebody like Nathalia, though. In general, it is nice because it's another AoE champion that's from the Wood faction that's able to, or sorry, from the Wood element that's able to do AoE damage. His best uses are going to be for helping you farm in the adventure stages, your jelly and your glyphs. He's also going to be really helpful in PvP content, especially for those of you that are, you know, in the beginning to mid-game stages. I would say about midway through gold or almost all the way through gold, he's going to be pretty helpful in general. You can also use him in Queen of Tides. He's going to be an excellent choice for you there overall. You can use him in Endless Trials, the Void Tower. You could use him in Guild Boss, but once you start to get other heroes, he will not be the best option to use there overall. So let's go ahead and get into rating. I am just going to go through every single place here in the game, show you my opinion and my rating for him. I do want to mention that you shouldn't typically always pay attention to what it says here. A lot of people will rate heroes before they actually know if they're good or not, which is why you're going to see that Hitoshi has a 4.3 in the Flame Lizard. That makes absolutely no sense. He is a weak affinity there, so there's no way he should be a 4 point anything in anything that he is a weak affinity in, unless you're some kind of super crazy support hero or something along those lines. So as far as arena offense, I'm giving him 4 stars. Arena defense, I'm going to give him 3 stars. No Man's Land Bane Wraith, I am going to give him 5 stars. The Flame Lizard, I'm going to give him 2 stars. Wraithful Flood, I'll give him 5 stars. Holy Light, 5 stars. Shadow Captive, 5 stars. Oh man. The Roaring Tulpa, 4 stars. Ash Magisteria, I'll give him 2 stars, and that is really honestly being generous. And of course, as a newer or beginner player, you can get away with using heroes that are weak affinity in the earlier stages, and you might think, oh, this guy is really good in the beginning stages, but that's just it. Whenever you start to climb, you're going to notice he is not so good in some of those other places that you were thinking he was really good at. Next is Queen of Tides. I am going to give him 4 stars for Queen. Witch of the Wind, I'll give him 4 stars. Gemini Dragon, I'm going to give him 2 stars. How he has 4.5, I do not know. Honestly, sometimes when I see these ratings, I get super confused. And then I'm going to give him 3 stars in the Armored Incursion. You see here that they do have recommended sets as well. I talked about the I talked about the average. You can use a rage set as well. When it comes to using a hero and gearing a hero, though, that is able to give themselves 30% crit rate, I honestly would not recommend using a rage set. It's not that vital. It's not that important. You should be able to get his 100% crit rate, which is actually 70, right? From honestly using a crit rate ring without having to get a boost in crit rate from the set. It's going to be better for you to either get that bonus from either the Avarice set or the Warrior set where he can deal extra damage. Hitoshi is, like I said, he's a really good hero. I'm glad that they came out with him because they did take away the free legendary hero that they were giving newer players. And that honestly took a really big toll. I still wish they would come back with that. But I think Hitoshi is a really good hero that they have put together and released for beginners. Anyways, if you guys have any questions or comments, something I forgot, leave that below. I'd be more than happy to answer anything you guys have or continue any conversation regarding Hitoshi. Also, if you're a new player, join my growing Discord community. I cannot say this enough. It's a great place for beginners to ask for advice and expert players to help give some advice. The link for that is going to be in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.